Hi everybody. So I'm over here mixing pouring medium for a clock round take 2. You may have seen our video that released recently for a commission I have. And so I was thinking I might as well do this on film because I know a lot of times there's a lot of questions about mixing pouring medium and consistencies, and I'm by no means an expert. So let me just set the record straight. I'm not great about making sure all of my consistencies are there when I do bloom stuff, but I am mixing up some tube paints and I'm gonna mix some interference stuff from Sheleeart, which is a pigment. So I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of how to eyeball it. So I am using Behr. This is my pouring medium, deep base, untinted. I have found this, whoa, I almost dumped that everywhere. I have found that because it's open. I have found that to be the closest in comparison to Sherwin-Williams. You hear my dog, sorry. I bought this when Sherwin-Williams stopped, which is the base C, needs to be tinted. But base C sometimes has a little bit of white in it. So it's still really good. It's a little bit thinner. And I would recommend using it for lighter colors or like pearlescent stuff. You do seem to lose a little bit of the depth of color, especially in pigments. It does dry a little bit brighter, so it's still really nice. But if I had to pick one, I would probably pick the Behr. Now the Behr is thick, so I'm gonna mix up another little bit of it. I already put some of my Sonja's in here, so I normally clean this off, but I'm just not gonna right now. So the Behr, I usually do a 3-to-1 ratio. So 3 scoops, let's say 3 parts untinted paint to 1 part gloss varnish. Well, with this, it's very thick. So you see how it's just like ploppy plop plop. So I'm gonna do a 2-to-1 because I'm mixing up some tube paints. And I know a lot of people mix their pouring mediums different for pigments, and I see why. I honestly sometimes do them the same. And then, you know, over time, as it sits there, it settles a little bit. So I'm just gonna do 2 scoops to show you. And like some people are so precise at how they measure and all that. I spend half my time prepping to do a painting. I'm just not trying to spend that much time weighing things and level scooping. So I do 2 parts ballpark. And then here's Sonja's gloss varnish. You can use polycrylic gloss, and it works. I like the consistency of Sonja's better, and I think you get better cells, in my opinion. But they both work. And I sometimes use polycrylic to thin my paint out. So if this mixture was still too thick for a tube paint, for example, I have a bottle of polycrylic in an old bottle right here. You see how much thinner it is? And you can easily thin it out a little bit. I also have been known to wet my pigments with polycrylic just a little bit and then mix them into pouring medium. But you can also just mix them directly into a small amount of pouring medium. So anyway, there's that. I'm just resting my spoon on a lid here. So I've already mixed up some tube paint. So this is Amsterdam Blue Violet. Still pretty thick. But this is also for a swipe, and I want to kind of hold the composition of the color. This is a fluid acrylic, so this is a golden permanent violet dark. So fluid acrylics really don't have a heavy or soft body. They're just highly pigmented. So they're going to take on the shape of whatever you put them in. So they're kind of perfect if your pouring medium is already perfect, which this one kind of is. So you throw your drops in there and you have a good time. But the tube paints are a lot thicker. So this is Liquitex Deep Violet, and I thinned this one out a little bit with polycrylic because it was thick, and it still is a little bit thick. So that's just to give you an idea. Obviously, those are not all perfectly the same consistency, but we're gonna make it work. And now I'm gonna mix a tube paint with you, and then I'm going to mix some interference pigments with you, and I'm probably gonna use the same exact pouring medium. So see, it's honestly still a little bit runny. So for the pigments, I could do one of two things. I could mix up a separate batch, or in my mixing cup, I could put a little bit of the deep base in there to thicken it up. And that's probably what we'll do. So I'm not really worried about the pigments being a little bit different because they're interference pigments, and I kind of want them to spread out like interference pigments do. So I have a ton of polycrylic on me. So this is like one of my favorite golds. It is Iridescent Bright Gold by Glidden. And I use it as a cell activator a lot. So if you've watched our videos and you see me use a cell activator that's gold, it's usually that one. It's a heavy body paint. So I just ordered Nickel Azo Gold, which I'm very excited about today, because I've been wanting that one for a long time. I think I saw Erica use this one, Erica Hughes, in a video, this golden one, and I bought it the next day, and I have used it a lot. It's just a beautiful color. So people say use a couple blueberries. There may be more than a couple blueberries, but. And then you just kind of eyeball it. So you don't necessarily want it to not move at all, but you don't want it to be runny. So I can live with that. I think at this point, when you deal with consistency, it starts to be kind of a matter of personal preference. But if you wanted it more runny than that, you could either add a little bit more pouring medium, or you could add a little bit of polycrylic to thin it out a little bit. So probably could stand to have another smidge of pouring medium. I hope that I'm in the frame. My goodness, what a waste of time. I'm terrible about that sometimes, so I try to focus on, so that's a little better, right? So if you saw our video, I actually just uploaded it today. I'm working on a commission piece. The gentleman who asked for the piece is like super nice. And so he's super easygoing, like, oh, whatever you make, I'm gonna love. But he really likes purple, so I really want it to look purple, and it looked pretty, but it looked fuchsia. So I'm gonna leave out the tiger's eye this time, because I think sometimes the coppery color can cause that. But some of it's because I also used Vavoom red, because that's what I used in the original piece that he liked, that I had at the table. So I'm going to, going to do some interference violet. So I saw, I don't know if you follow Erica Hughes and Mark, they're doing the Sunday challenges. But I saw her swipe today, and I was like, oh, that might be actually very perfect for what this guy is looking for. So this is, and she used Golden Violet. I don't have Golden Violet. I have the one I showed you, and then I have Amsterdam greenish blue, not greenish blue, bluish, blue violet, whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna mix up the ones I do have, and I'm gonna see if I can make it work. But she used 2 interference colors by Sheleeart and a black cell activator. So sometimes simple is better. So this is Bling It Interference Gold by Sheleeart. So I'm not gonna start off with too much, but I do want it to be pretty sparkly. If I was patient enough, I would wait on my Sheleeart order to come in and add in the purple that's in the Wildflower series. Also, I just told you you should mix pigments into a very small amount of pouring medium and then add pouring medium, and then I got to talking to you and I didn't do that. So don't do what I just did. It will mix, those mix even in acrylic painting, but the interference ones are not quite as pigmented. but I'm still kind of happy with that consistency. So I already have some of the interference violet mixed up, so I'm just going to add to it. So this would be a better example of what I just suggested, is to mix it into a smaller amount and then add more. What a silly person I am sometimes. So, and I'm making like the hugest mess. So this is just basically some leftovers that I had mixed up and I haven't finished. So instead of using up a new container, I'm just going to mix it up in this one. And you may not be able to see how beautiful that is. But my hope is that it will create a lot of light refraction and stuff on the painting. I'm hoping I put enough in there. So I'm going to use interference colors. I am still going to use that bright gold, but I am going to use less of it, and I'm going to space it out. So I'm going to see how that goes, but you'll find out about that if you watch that video. But that's kind of what I'm preparing to do, just so you know what I'm mixing paint for. And that's why I'm mixing everything on this clock round, because it's what I'm about to do. So then, once we mix this up, we'll set it aside. And my hope is that I will get something super beautiful that looks very purple and not pink. Still like the one that we turned out, but ideally, most people who are better at this than I am will tell you that all of your paints that you're mixing should be the same consistency. So I will say that is true, and they are generally in the ballpark, the ones that we mixed. So I'm not gonna lose too much sleep over them not being perfect, but because I want to get to pouring. And while we are here together, I will mix up a batch of cell activator with you, because I'm going to make one. So I figured while I'm mixing paint, I might as well share with you. This probably won't be the last time that I share, because I think as we progress in this painting life, we get better at some of these things. And so I think these are going to look really cool together. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to move these out of the way. And the other thing I was going to show you is what this Valspar looks like, but I may not show you that right now because I don't want this video to be too long. I'm kind of torn. Yeah, I probably don't want it to be too long. So that's, you saw me mix up a pigment and a tube paint. I'm going to close this little guy up. Maybe I'll do a Valspar mixture after we do the cell activator, because I was going to use that mixture for the pigments, the interference pigments, because it wouldn't really hurt if there was white in there. And then I also had this color scheme that I saw in my head when I was going to sleep. It has that like Dairy Slide yellow by Golden. And in my head, like, it looked really beautiful with like a deep violet color and nickel azo gold, which I don't have yet. And that color, but I was going to add some Mango Mamba, that color art, to the yellow for some beautiful stuff, because you know I can't really not use the color art. So this is Australian Floetrol. This little tiny thing, if you're in the US, it's 50 bucks on eBay. Probably worth every penny of it. What was I thinking? I have my clock face on K-cups. So I got a little bottom heavy. I'm gonna mix this with Golden Carbon Black Heavy Body, 3:1 ratio. So I'm going to do this part first because I don't want to run the risk of cross-contaminating my Floetrol. And then I gotta clean up all my stuff and actually paint. That's a little heapy. You can eyeball it. I mean, sometimes different paints you use are going to create different consistencies. Carbon Black is a really good black cell activator. So is Golden Oxide Black. Look at these boogers. Gross. So, and I was torn because Oxide Black's a little softer. So I was torn with which to use on this one. And I was trying to figure out which one Erica used because it was perfect. So I just decided, you know what, just mix up gold and see what happens. So it's pretty thick. Make sure I didn't use an interference color. So your cell activator should be the consistency of like, it's hard to describe. And I normally like to mix it into like one part of the Floetrol first, just to break it up better. But for time's sake, I didn't want to have to rinse the spoon and blah, 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 blah. But Australian Floetrol is very like, I can't describe what the difference is. It seems like it almost has a better elasticity, like almost like I know it's not a paint binder, but it almost like seems stretchy. So some people have great results with just plain American Floetrol, especially with like a black paint. I have only had success with Amsterdam and Golden paints as cell activators. And keep in mind, I wouldn't use something like this in a cell activator because this has no body. You need something that has some body, or you're just relying on the body that's in the Amsterdam, or sorry, the Australian Floetrol. I don't know why I keep saying Amsterdam, maybe because I have it all over the counter. So this is a 3:1 ratio. Seems a little thick to me, but it's still not yet mixed up. But it sort of has the consistency of like a heavy whipping cream. And almost sort of like the greasiness of it. So if you can see the way it kind of, it's hard to tell maybe in that light, but you can see the way it kind of comes off the edge on its own. That's a good sign. Because you want it to glide across your paint. You don't want to have to blow down into your paint or swipe down into your paint to get it to do what you want it to do. This is a little thick. Sorry, my dog's about to make noise. This is a little thick. Hey, stop that. But I honestly think it will be good. I wonder if I could show you guys like an example. I probably can't without actually using some paint. And I'm really set up to do a project, so I probably shouldn't do that. But that's the idea, is it should be kind of almost like a high-fat cream where it kind of glides down the side of the surface when you swipe it. That's kind of what you want. So hopefully that helps you guys. This was a golden one, and if you'll be patient with me, I can do one more mix with you. using Amsterdam paint. So let me rinse this off really quick. Okay, and then I'll do one more with you. I'm gonna do a blue one because I'm out of blue cell activator, blue or purple. I can't really decide. I think we'll do Prussian blue. So I'm gonna kind of do the same thing here. I love Prussian blue cell activator, Amsterdam, and I like the blue violet as well. White, of course, sure. But I like both of those very much. Now, Amsterdam paint is a medium body, so it's not as heavy as the carbon black. I tell you, when you pay this much for Floetrol and it drips down the side, you don't let any drip go to waste. I heard somebody, I don't remember what it was, they were asking, do you ever just use Australian Floetrol in your base paint? The person was like, why would you do that? And I was thinking, like, it's an honest question, but like, all I was thinking was dollar signs, you know? Because if you don't need to, then you won't, why would you want to waste it? But it was an honest question. They were talking about some people who mix Floetrol into various steps. Anyway, I was like, no, the stuff's like liquid gold, like cell activator only. So same concept here. You can probably see it mix a little bit better because it's not black, but you can see the difference between a heavy body paint and a medium body paint. You can see how much faster that just dissolved right in there. I want to make sure we have enough paint. You see how much more runny this one is? Might need a tiny smidge more paint because I didn't fully measure that scoop. But the consistency seems pretty accurate to me, but I think we'll just do a tiny bit more. There you go, a little dollop. Yeah, don't fall. All right. And again, if you look at the side, is it kind of doing that stuff like fatty cream does where it separates? It is. And you can kind of tell when you paint, and this is why I wish I was set up to show you, when you put your cell activator on top of your paints, it gets like this ring around it. That's pretty perfect. And honestly, this is pretty perfect how it bounces up and stops. That's pretty perfect. Our carbon black one might actually still be a little bit thick, but this is pretty ideal for what you're looking for. So this one might need, it still does it, but it's a little thicker. We might put a tiny bit more Floetrol in this one. I'm afraid to put too much though, so like the tiniest bit. Yeah. Just to make sure as it sits there it doesn't get too thick. A little better. And again, that's really only because this one's a heavy body, so it has a little bit more viscosity than the Amsterdam. That's where you just kind of eyeball it. It doesn't mean that it wasn't going to work like that, because it probably would have been fine. It might keep a little bit longer. But yeah, so hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I try to share as much as I can while I'm doing random things around here. So thank you. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it was helpful, and subscribe and like and all the wonderful things if you don't already, and we appreciate it. Have a great day.